So this is a video about an active fundraiser, connecting the last video about becoming the medicine and being a memory keeper to this. Back in the day, I held that all of this healing work and more would be community supported. Back then, I was naive and I couldn't see how like the miracles and the magic that were both biblical and body would bring more fear than fellowship. I remember the first time I asked for help after 40 years of figuring out how to do it myself, thinking the only way I'd ever be safe, or it would be done right, of course, it was as if I took care of it. That I needed to take care of myself as well, because I'm this independent woman. I'm skilled, I'm smart, I'm intuitive, I'm compassionate and fiery when necessary, and justice focused. And back then I had a bank account until I didn't, and it all went to shit because God popped in and changed my life. I couldn't rely on my independence or ingenuity anymore. So at one point I asked my father to help me pay a phone bill. And then I learned 5 years after that I was abandoned by him because that one request fulfilled to him the prophecy he made that I'd be one of those people who relied on everybody else. When I was days old. He prophesied that when I was days old. And when he admitted that, later his line was, I just didn't know how you would make it as a healer, so it was easier for him to walk away. I mean, think about that for just a hot second. And so when I began the healing work, following that bouncing red ball of universal guidance, I charged $45 for a 3-hour session. To me, that seemed reasonable because I was trying to make it so everyone could afford it. But it was clients who said, Ingrid, you need to charge more. And my landlord at the time absolutely agreed. 16 years have been spent trying to make it all work because community didn't rally or gather in the way I thought it would or should. Not that help didn't arrive sometimes in miraculous ways that reminded me that my father's judgment about me was his alone and not shared by other folks. In the past 3 years, I have held more jobs than I care to admit in an attempt to become a semblance of that independent woman I was in the past. And each one of these most recent jobs has nearly killed me in more ways than one. They've been innocuous jobs, far less than my resume implies, but each time they've taken me out of that proverbial spiritual place I'm meant to be. And each time, even if I was only in it for a few weeks, it took longer for my body and mind to recover. Wait for God has been the repeated message that kept me on the brink of homelessness for 3 years because rent is part of life and I couldn't make it without my own understanding that God or whatever it was cooking up wasn't going to show up for me in the way I wanted it. I mean, I kept making rent until I got so sick I couldn't. And then in a conversation with someone from North Dakota who shared a story about a revered medicine man who died with one of those storage sheds stacked full of packets of tobacco and like knockoff Pendleton blankets as tokens of appreciation and need, but couldn't afford to heat his own home, so he died. I came back to this idea that the medicine must be contained within community, as must those who are becoming the medicine, the next generation of healers and hope bringers that the world is desperate for. So I am asking for help again. I absolutely need to get to Massachusetts to help becoming the medicine student there. The two of us have worked together remotely for 9 months, but now we need to be in shared physical space for the next stage of things to unfold. In addition, after visiting them, I need to get to the Navajo Nation for another student. To meet both of these, I need between $3,000 and $5,000 to do so. And it's my understanding that time is of the essence for both of these young people. Massachusetts is first, followed by Deneta. Someone has suggested that a GoFundMe account would legitimize this request for some people. I don't have the required bank account to attach to GoFundMe. I've not had a bank account for over 6 months because that's one of the effects of poverty. Another someone has suggested that she believes me and all of these things, because she's walked with me for a while. And she said that God gave these to you because he knew you wouldn't squander these gifts and that you would trust. And in fact, you couldn't do it yourself. You as a separate, individuated self don't even exist. You don't have to prove anything, nor should you expect God to prove the trust. You just trust and then let it be. So part of this ask this time is trusting, putting it out there, and letting it be. No matter how long I've been in this subsumation process, being subsumed by God, for God, I still seem to carry the shame of asking for help. I've internalized, not a lack of worth, because I know mine, but this idea that others can't see my worth or won't because I actually ask for help. I don't have much of an imagination, but mine takes me to people rolling their eyes and saying, there she goes again. Can't she take care of it her own damn self? And to me, that's an extension of the political social thinking that those who need assistance, whether it's government-funded services or not, such as they are these days, are not worthy beings. And the echo of my own father's dismissal of me for following where God led, following God's direction. The truth, as I see it so far, is that I was made for everyone, and that part of the equation of all of this coming into full fruition is that I need help taking care of other people who then learn how their own communities help them help others, that the medicine grows in that way exponentially into a renewed way of expression. I'm asking you to please help if you can. Donate if you can. Buy a painting or a print. Many are available. Hit share on the socials without measuring how others are going to judge you for passing it on. Maybe share a story about how a painting has made you feel like you were being touched by God itself. Or how one has reached out in a dream and touched you physically and then your illness was gone. Maybe what it felt like to know for the very first time ever that you were cherished. And maybe this feels too beggy. Maybe I am too beggy. Maybe it's just the right tone. Maybe you'll unsubscribe. Or I'll just cringe when I hit send. Maybe a lot of other things than me giving up on this idea. And these young people who are tied to other unfoldings we can't define yet. The work that I do with these young people is first for them. It has to be for them. And then as they grow into themselves, they become the medicine for others. And as I see it, it's up to us as an extended community to show them that they don't have to be ashamed to ask for help for themselves. And perhaps they won't need to. Perhaps it's their generation and peers that will just evolve into the fluidity of community that allows healers and seers to be supported. There's only one way to find out. Thank you for letting me natter on as I've flopped around today trying to figure out life stuff. Much, much love to you and yours as we all try to do the same in these wild, wild, untamed times. I will put in the captions ways to donate if you can. I am open to any and all questions and will answer them in the best way I can. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Bye.